The leader should be able to see that you're struggling in your work. The leader should be able to see that, your performance has sort of dipped over a certain period of time. What's going on? They try to address it. From a performance perspective, that is why ongoing conversations need to happen. Most organizations will leave it to end of year to have these discussions when the damage has already been done. What we do encourage organizations to do is you could have reviews, perhaps be it quarterly or biannually. Most recommended is biannually, but you could do it quarterly. But at the same time, you could also have monthly check-ins just to see how the KPIs or the deliverables are working without really scoring. You're just checking in to see that there's full alignment. And if such issues arise, it gives you an opportunity for early detection and early taking of control measures.
So I do agree. I believe that top talent will be attracted to performance-based reward systems. Most of the time in the entitlement-based system, you find it's the people who are not high performers, but just feeling entitled that I am here and I deserve to be given a bonus or an incentive. So for sure, it does attract and retain top talent.
That's the goodness with modern day performance management in the sense that it's continuous in its nature. So once you see that something is not working, you can go back, recalibrate, make work still more challenging, make the target still, achievable, so to speak, and then start working towards that.
Are performance-based reward systems inherently unfair? Today we will be debating arguments for and against performance-based reward systems. My name is Delia Banda Mushipi and
I am Henry Mushipi.
welcome to the Money and People podcast, the show where we connect the dots between financial success and the power of human capital. So, most of the times people say that performance-based reward systems are unfair, and there have been different arguments for and against. And I think the opposite of these performance-based reward systems would then be entitlement-based reward systems or just role-based, depending on your role, and then you get rewarded for the job that you're doing. But today we want to dive deep into what are the various arguments to and for this system of rewards. And we will begin using a few statements to just bring clarity to the argument.
So performance-based reward systems drive productivity and growth.
Yes, that is true. So once you go for work and you know that the more you put into the work and the more output that comes out, the more you're rewarded, you are motivated to push a whole lot more because you know the more results you churn out of whatever activity you're doing, the more you're going to be, compensated for that. So from a productivity perspective, what that means is everybody who's aligned in that sort of realm will then be pushing harder, knowing that there is an incentive at the end of the assignment. For that company means you're going to be a whole lot more productive, you're going to deliver a whole lot more results in that time frame.
Okay, but what happens, for example, if overall your industry that you work in is having a tough year, and meaning that by the middle of the year, you already know that no matter how much effort you are going to put in, yes, money is a big motivator, but there are certain times where you know that no matter how much effort you put in, for example, the cost of doing business just goes up, or the industry becomes very competitive, and you won't be able to meet those targets that are set in your performance contract. What happens then? Won't that just now end up demotivating you?
So remember, things to do with performance contracts are not 100 fully cast in stone. And when you're setting targets, what were you basing the targets off of? You knew that the industry wasn't doing great. So why are you targeting 10 million kwacha in an industry where you can only make 3 million, for instance? So you have to be smart about how you set your targets, hence productivity as well. But also in that same spirit of being productive, remember, You have the super performers, you have average performers and low performers in any space. So even in a time where you don't meet the targets, there's definitely one individual, two people who even got you anywhere in the first place. So it still comes back to you setting realistic targets, smart ones, and then having people, push for those results.
Okay, I still feel that there are certain times where the target was realistic, but there's a new development
Mm-hmm.
in your industry that would make achieving that target very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And you, even as a top performer, yes, you can try, but I think that might end up demotivating you. So, an example that I will give is maybe you start off the year with a sales target, it's realistic, but then your competitor comes up with this new strategy mid-year, and now your customers are flocking to the other side, and maybe your systems and your technology can't match up.
So
Even
what?
if you try, won't that just demotivate you?
So your competitor came up with a strategy. What are you doing? You just sat and waited for that continuity to happen. You also need to go back and look at what's working and what's not at every point in time, and that's the goodness with modern day performance management in the sense that it's continuous in its nature. So once you see that something is not working, you can go back, recalibrate, make work still more challenging, make the targets still, achievable, so to speak, and then start working towards that. So you just can't sit and say in January this is the target we've made. Even if there've been shifts in dynamics, you just say we're still going ahead with that. That is definitely going to cause demotivation. But if you look into the market, and that's where also data comes in, you look at the data. What is it saying to you? What does excellence or overachievement look like in the circumstances that you are facing? What does that look like? What does exceptional delivery look like? And you align performance to that. You will still be able to have employees who are motivated to still push, even if the market is sort of compressed.
Okay, the reason why I will hit hard on this is I have seen there are certain industries where it's very difficult to make those changes in reaction to what your competitors are doing. You
Mm-hmm.
may want to align and improve your product offering, but you are probably limited by bureaucracies in your own organization. Maybe that decision to improve and become more competitive comes from your group level or your head office. Maybe your competitor has better payment terms, and you at this level, you can't improve those payment terms because it's a group standard. So what I mean by payment terms is, imagine your competitor says you can buy a car and pay back in 5 years for
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, if you do that, your business can't survive if you extended such long credit terms of 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
because of maybe the way your business is structured. You expect that your customers have to pay at minimum or at maximum within a year. If you extend those terms, you end up in a loss. And so that can demotivate your staff, because they know that, okay, out there, customers would prefer to have more time to pay. But my company, we are limited because it's not a decision that can even be made by someone here. So I can't sell more cars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to sell more cars, but when I go out there, customers are saying, look, your friends are able to let me pay for this within 5 years, but your company is only giving me a maximum of 1 year. So won't that demotivate me as an employee who's working for that company that can't flex to meet the demand that's out there?
Yeah, so the employee definitely will be demotivated, but then what's the alternative? Are you just going to sit down and do nothing? Because the company has to progress, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's the alternative? What are you going to do next?
I don't know. That's where you come in as
Mm-hmm.
someone in HR to advise, because what I've seen is people just then they say, look, what our hands are sort of tied. We have suggested that maybe we try to match up with what the competition is offering, but if we haven't been given that go ahead at that level, then what am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm. So what you're going to do then is, remember, when we're doing performance management, we also look at things which are in your control and things which are not in your control. I mean, not to digress too much, I'll give an example of how to say, let's just use mortgaging for instance. So you go out and you find a customer who wants to buy a house with 20 million kwacha. You go back to the company and say, Mr. Company Man, there's somebody who wants to buy this house for 20 million, but the company can only afford 5 million. Are you then going to be called a non-performer? You brought 20 million, the company just couldn't afford it. So in that case, once we're even doing performance review, those are some of the factors that we're going to look at to say fact things which were beyond your control, and we still put in mechanisms to recognize and reward that, to say this person was still making effort despite the market being bad.
Okay. So I think that's why it would then be important to measure not just from the final result, because
No.
I'm guessing this salesperson would have brought you so many leads, but if your terms are not favorable, then it will end there. But then if your performance contract says you only get rewarded if you make the sale, then that is what will end up demotivating.
And that's why you have to be smart about how you do your performance contracts, because what you're saying sounds like reward on commission. So in times where, the market is not doing well, the employee might lose out on commission. It might be sad, but it doesn't mean they will sort of come out of that bonus realm or that other type of reward, because there are other things to your work. So yes, you may have struggled through sales, even if it's not your fault. Once you do sit and look at factors and you say this is not the person's fault, you should still be able to recognize that person's effort to motivate them to do more. But there are also other things which then come into a business. There's leads generation, for instance, which the person did. What other things can the person do? There's also things to do with customer retention, because you already have existing customers, for instance. What can you do to still retain them? Where you fail, it's scorecard is out of 100. So you find that you might not deliver on 100, but you should still have delivered on 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. The next statement is performance-based reward systems attract and retain top talent.
Yes, they do. Once you have, and also care has to be taken. You need to have proper systems in place. They have to be free of bias. They have to be structured in such a sense that once we sit, under a tree or somewhere and say that guy is a performer, everybody around the table should actually be able to agree based on how you've structured it, the matrices you've been using, the data you have been extracting. In terms of attracting and retaining, ideally we go to companies to succeed. What everything that we set out to do, we set out to succeed and to achieve. So if you do have a structure that provides that platform, it will be more exciting than another place which is more political, for instance, and not partisan politics, of course, but where it's now based on subjectivity, the liking or disliking. Most high achievers just want to deliver, and if their reward and recognition is strongly and positively correlated to what they put in or what they put out, they will be attracted to stay. And word will go out to say once you deliver, this company actually pays you a lot more, or it treats you better than those people that do not deliver.
So I do agree. I believe that top talent will be attracted to performance-based reward systems. Most of the time in the entitlement-based system, you find it's the people who are not high performers, but just feeling entitled that I am here and I deserve to be given a bonus or an incentive. So for sure, it does attract and retain top talent.
Next statement is performance-based reward systems provide clarity and motivation.
Yes, they do. Well-structured performance systems, through performance contracts, that people call them performance appraisal. They all manner of terminology for them. But the important thing is at the start of, the year, at the start of implementation of the annual strategy, everybody should know what it is that they'll be doing, their contribution to that strategy, the extent to which they should contribute, the reward for exceptional performance, and also the sanction for non-delivery. So what that does is at any given point in time, you know exactly what you're coming to do. You know how to prioritize your work because the way performance contracts are also structured is they do have weights. So you will know what's important and what's not important. In terms of clarity, I think we did have a lot of experiences in the past where pre having those balanced scorecards, you had individuals feeling they were working hard, but towards not towards nothing. But once we did that, you then found somebody then saying, I didn't know this is how much work I need to do. So in terms of clarity, that does. And also when you're seeing the rewards of your effort coming to fruition, when you're seeing that the strategy is moving in a certain direction based on the contributions that you're making, you're going to be incentivized or motivated to actually contribute a whole lot more. Because at the end of the year, you want to be the person who then says, I'm the one who did that. Yes, that was my effort. That was my contribution. So in terms of clarity and motivation, yes, I do agree that, performance management does do that. A well-structured performance management system, of course.
I do agree that performance-based reward systems provide clarity, but a lot of work has to be done. And in some companies, it's an argument on who is supposed to clarify that, because you find that as you start the year, you've agreed on certain performance matrices along the year. As the year is going by, there may be certain changes. For example, if the department now becomes short-staffed and you're doing more work which was on someone else's performance contract, sometimes we neglect to factor in those things. Maybe at mid-year, can we adjust those things? Because sometimes people start to feel demotivated because now they're feeling like, I'm doing someone else's job. I'm doing more things which were not on my scorecard, but I'm only being measured for the things that I agreed to in my contract at the beginning of the year. So I think, leaving it to the start and end of the year, there are a lot of changes that may happen during the year, but I think the clarity needs to be a constant, ongoing thing, that whatever changes are being made on this person's plate, you need to take into account and make sure that they know that they will still be measured against those things.
Okay. So yes, I do agree. There's a component of performance and also administration. So from an administrative perspective, you need to know that yes, the department is short-staffed, somebody has left. What measures are you going to put in place? In my past life, we did set out certain rules to cater for that. So initially, what you would have is if there's short staffing, you would start with overtime because somebody would then work a little extra hours
Yeah.
to also, make sure that there's continuity. After a period of after overtime, after a period of about a month, what we started doing was we then put in either acting allowance or extra responsibility allowance, already compensating you for the extra effort that you're putting. But if it goes longer than that, it goes into 3 months, it will then be part of your performance as well. So that's one of the ways in which you could do it. Different organizations have different ways. We found that that way was actually working. From a performance perspective, that is why ongoing conversations need to happen. Most organizations will leave it to end of year to have these discussions when the damage has already been done. What we do encourage organizations to do is you could have reviews, perhaps be it quarterly or biannually. Most recommended is biannually, but you could do it quarterly. But at the same time, you could also have monthly check-ins just to see how the KPIs or the deliverables are working without really scoring. You are just checking in to see that there's full alignment. And if such issues arise, it gives you an opportunity for early detection and early taking of control measures. So organizations do, or serious ones at least, do have measures to put in place to cater for that.
Okay, I think one take home from what you're saying is the monthly check-ins. For me, it would be really important that people do that, and also to know whose responsibility that is. Because to be honest, sometimes I find that people who are demotivated by having a bigger workload and nothing is being done to address the elephant in the room, they are thinking their manager will bring up this topic. If their manager doesn't bring it up, they're thinking HR will notice that I'm doing more work, but usually HR has their own deliverables. So now this person will start feeling frustrated. Like their manager has given them more work, but we're not addressing the fact that, okay, am I going to be measured on deliverables in this area? like who's supposed to start this conversation? Because sometimes if I'm the one who starts the conversation, I look like I just want more money. I'm not a team player. Because sometimes there's that unspoken rule that you will just take on more work because you're a team player without understanding, okay, am I going to get rewarded for performing exceptionally well, even in the tasks which were not initially mine? So I think for me, the monthly check-in and recognizing who is supposed to bring up that conversation. The conversation of adding more work to your plate is very easy, but am I going to get rewarded for performing well on this? And I think that's a LinkedIn topic for you to create an article, because people don't know where this conversation is supposed to start from. Am I in my rights as an employee to ask those important questions if I'm given more work?
So the easy answer is that it's a leadership issue. You as a leader, if you're going to be a departmental head, or depending on how this organization is structured, if you look at KPIs, especially for departmental heads, well structured ones, at least the ones that we've worked with, you find there's a component. The people aspect is usually speaking to their leadership, the ensuring that there's team synergy, there's collaboration, there's also motivation. So
Yeah.
already, if it's well structured, the leader has on their KPIs is being rewarded for making sure that that conversation is had in the first place, that their employees are motivated, that the employees understand what is going on in the department, the certain changes, and why they're being asked to take on more assignments and things like that. So it's a leadership issue. It's not you. It's not so much you. Yes, you can as the employee go and say, okay, there's a lot more going on. That's fine. But the leader should have detected this a long time ago. The leader should be able to see that you're struggling in your work. The leader should be able to see that, your performance has sort of dipped over a certain period of time. What's going on? They try to address it. So that conversation is usually at leadership level.
All right, so let's discuss performance-based reward systems in relation to subjectivity and bias.
Okay. I think when we talk about subjectivity and bias, we are talking about, can every role um, be fairly subjected to performance-based reward systems? For me, as a layperson who's not in human resources, I would think there are certain roles that this type of reward system works best for. For example, a person in sales, because if I sell X number of cars, I can get a commission, or I will be um, rewarded for selling X number of cars, right? But for me, who is an accountant, all I'm doing is posting invoices, or I am uh, doing the financial statements, I have to pay suppliers and all that. Is it very easy for me to also have a fair reward system? Because sometimes it feels like there will be certain opinions about whether this is just my job, so why should I be rewarded for it? And in that way, we begin to feel like certain roles, it's not fair to use performance-based reward systems.
So every job has a purpose and a value in the organization. Yes, the sales jobs are easier because it's just if you sell this, you're getting 1% commission off your sales. But that's commission based reward. That's only one
Yeah.
type of reward. You do have other things to do with bonuses, you do have bonding, retention, all of those other different rewards come into play. We just can't end at commission and say it's the only way of rewarding people. Coming back to your role, to your concern, every role can be rewarded. So what happens is it comes back to defining the role. What is the purpose? What are the expectations of this role? In the simplest terms, every company has an expectation of the role, and once it's seen that this person is going over and beyond already, that's an opportunity for that. But like you said, some people will just say this is your job, and that's where people like HR come in to show management what is someone's job, what is going over and beyond, and what some people would say going on water, which is basically excellent performance. And that's where things like balance scorecards come in, because the balance scorecard comes in. That's my recommendation. I know there are different other tools which come in, but that my usual recommendation, at least at minimum, everybody should have a balance scorecard. And what that does is it does have a component which speaks to what is known as a success criteria. So for each task, the success criteria, usually it's on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being unacceptable, 5 being exceptional, shows you, an individual, what it means from the onset to say, you are exceptional in your work, you are a 5. It does define what that is. You are consistently delivering, that's maybe like a 4. You are delivering what is expected of you, that's a 3. Your work is, unacceptable, and so on and so forth. So those different calibrations in the success criteria give evidence to show that this person actually is a superstar, they just do their job, or they're actually underperforming. So in those particular rating success criteria, and if you do the full spec of the scorecard, that is what is going to inform decisions into whether this person deserves a reward, this person deserves to be retained. It also provides input into things like, should the person be promoted? Promotion is not just on performance, it is performance is a component which feeds into those decisions. So once you properly design that, yes, you can reward everyone from a cleaner right through to a CEO. And we've done this before. We have actually created KPIs and scorecards for cleaners, and we've shown to say this one is actually better than this other person. This driver is more exceptional than this other person, and we've been able to show why X deserves a reward and why the other person doesn't. So you can reward everyone. Don't just focus on commission, focus on other kinds of reward, and you can diversify your reward portfolio. So to answer your question, yes, you can.
And on a lighter note, I remember working with someone who really loved the commission-based reward system, such that when he was moved to become a manager, he wasn't too happy because he was missing out on those commissions of just being a consultant. So some reward systems, I think, motivate you to stay in certain roles, and then others will make you shy away from other roles.
I think there, what's important also is to design your organization such that people aspire for the next higher level role. You find usually it becomes a problem if somebody doesn't want to advance because it's more rewarding where they are. Yes, there are other reasons why somebody might not want to advance, because they feel I've reached the I've reached the ceiling of what I can do, and if I go up, I'm being set up for failure because maybe I don't feel I can do that. There are some people who feel that, but of course, it's the duty of the organization to train, prepare, equip the individuals to go an extra mile, but to create an incentive structure which deliberately causes people to not want to move to the next higher level, maybe cause for another conversation to relook that and see how best it can be done. Because I don't see why me, who's a non-manager, should not want to become a manager because it's more rewarding to be a non-manager. Then everyone will not want to get to that leadership position. What does that then do for the organization? So I think it's important to relook that structure and, to reevaluate it and see what sort of changes can be made towards it.
Okay.
Yep.
Performance-based reward systems demotivate collaboration.
If not well structured, yes, they actually do. If you make them too individualistic, you do run the risk of employees sort of taking that selfish route, sometimes even stepping on other colleagues. So what you can do is you can do something that is more hybrid or blended, where you do reward for individual effort, but also you reward for collaborative efforts as well, because the whole is bigger than the sum of parts. So if you create a system which is rewarding sum of parts, you miss out on the whole. So you can, what we encourage is to have individual rewards. You need to see individual brilliance, but also bring in an incentive program which also rewards the group as well.
I guess that's true. I mean, I have had situations where on the team-based KPIs, when they're doing well, everyone is happy and they take the score that everyone has received. But when that particular time, the team-based KPI has performed very low, then people want to argue in those reviews. They want to say, no, but why am I being penalized for this group score? Me, for myself, I think I really pushed on this one, but because we are being ranked based on the whole team's performance, I don't feel it's fair. So at the start of the year, when it's a clean slate, they are happy with that blend. They're like, okay, yes, this individual one, yeah, this group one, yeah. But at the end of the year, depending on how you are ranked for that group one, people have those mixed opinions on how they feel about it, and they're like, no, I'm demotivated, I worked hard, is it my fault that the rest didn't work hard, what? So it's like, I don't know.
So that's where you then have the blended approach, which we're talking about, and you can explain to the employee to say, yes, we did recognize your individual effort. That's why you've qualified into the individual incentive. But on the group one, the group had an assignment and you failed. Whether you claim you pushed or you didn't, the group failed. And the objective was to ensure that the group delivers. So once you have the blended approach, yes, the person may be considered for that individual one, but this one they all for. The only question then is how do you structure it? Which one attracts more weighting? I think it could be a 50-50 kind of thing. So if we're going to give out, if we have a pool of say 10,000, we say 5,000 is going to the team, the other 5 is going to the individual, maybe that. But it's important to draw lines between the two.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the cry is always that the ones that are like group based should carry less weight, because the person wants to feel that they also own where they are going, especially if this scorecard also speaks to their promotion and all that. They don't want to feel like it's 50-50. They want to feel like the bigger chunk is the one that's driven by their own effort.
But that's where they make the mistake sometimes, because promotion, like I said earlier, promotion usually is a component of performance and potential. Potential is your leadership capability. And so if yes, you performed on your own, but you
But on the
failed to
team,
inspire the
yeah,
team, should you
yeah,
still be promoted? Because now you just be a solo rider, and the fear is even when you become a leader, are
you
you
will be
really
looking out for yourself.
exactly? So that's why it's important to still draw those two lines, and actually encourage. Perhaps what you could do for experiment is, now that I think about it, I know I read a book on about Harvard where the education system. That's why I noticed the education system is a bit different from the Zambian one, where they were giving more. So for assignments, for instance, they were giving more reward to successful group assignments than individual ones. That's how they do it. I think in Zambia it's the opposite. I think there's an assumption you're sharing this, you're sharing that. But from the Harvard system, at least from the book I read, what they don't teach you at Harvard was that there's more incentive given to group efforts. And if you look at a business, I think a business thrives when groups are delivering rather than individuals, because you and an individual have a target of 200 kwacha, whereas the group has a target of 10,000. So where would the organization be happier, the 200 kwacha or the bigger portion? So again, that's where you need to look at your different reward incentives. But also it's important to note that organizations are also different. So these things, there's no one size fits all approach. You have to look at the organization, the state that it's in, the dynamics that it's going through, and then design the structures which are there, which we as HR people are very, very happy to help with
All right.
at a fee,
Okay.
a large one.
So, to our audience, this has been a very short but sweet episode where we have been looking at the pros and cons of performance based reward systems. Now, we are interested to hear your opinion. What do you think about performance based reward systems? Do you think they are inherently unfair, or is there an opportunity in there for us to have a very well motivated staff? From Henry and I at the Money and People podcast, it's bye.
All right, thank you.